Hi, I'm Dr. Tony Hampton. Today I want to have an adult conversation about food. No shaming, no tribalism, just biology and results. I've lived on both sides of the fence. I experimented with plant-based, then with animal-based. My gut and my patients' outcomes told me where to thrive. And of course, what I learned when I got a master's in nutrition and functional medicine from the University of Western States. But the goal here isn't to win an argument, it's to win your health. So let's look at the root causes, the design features of the human machine, and the clues from our past that explain why many of us feel and perform better when animal foods are the foundation. First, the ancestry. When anthropologists analyze ancient bones and tools, a pattern pops out. For long stretches of the Pleistocene, humans sat high on the food chain. Stable isotope analysis and multiple lines of evidence suggest our lineage spent a lot of time as top-level hunters. Think meat-heavy omnivore, not salad-grazing primate. Some researchers even argue human trophic level peaked with Homo erectus before drifting downward as agriculture arrived. Not everyone agrees on every detail, and debate is healthy. But the weight of evidence places early humans far closer to carnivore than herbivore. How did that shape our bodies? Consider the expensive tissue hypothesis. Human brains are metabolic divas. To afford a big one, you either raise total energy intake or save energy elsewhere. One strategy: eat higher quality, easier to digest foods, like animal foods, and shrink the gut. Humans have relatively small digestive tracts for our body size, compared with other primates, which tracks with a higher quality diet and brain upgrade. Cooking likely amplified this shift by softening food, denaturing protein, and lowering the energy cost of digestion. Fuel that could be diverted upstairs to neural hardware. Now zoom into the anatomy. Humans have very acidic stomachs, more like carnivores and scavengers than herbivores. That acid isn't just for digestion. It's a microbial moat, protecting us from pathogens associated with animal foods. Downstream, our colon, where plant fiber is fermented in herbivores, is proportionally small, while our small intestine, where protein and fat are absorbed, is relatively large. In apes, the colon can be roughly half the gut volume. In humans, it's closer to 1/5. Translation? We're built to extract nutrients efficiently from energy-dense foods, and we rely less on fermenting vast amounts of fiber. That's not a moral claim. It's a blueprint. Here's another clue. Relative to other great apes, humans habitually eat more fat, and our brains, rich in long-chain fatty acids, seem to like that arrangement. High-quality, animal-rich diets correlate with bigger brains across primates. It's not just calories. It's the kind of calories and what they enable. The shift wasn't meat or plants as a binary. It was, can we afford a supercomputer in the skull? Animal foods plus cooking help pay the energy bill. Nutrient density matters too. Animal foods package complete protein and highly bioavailable iron called heme iron, zinc, B12, preferred vitamin A, retinol, and often DHA, EPA. Several of these are sparse or absent in unfortified plant foods. And some plant forms require conversion steps that vary widely between individuals. For example, plant foods don't naturally supply vitamin B12. We rely on animal foods or fortification. And heme iron from meat is absorbed far more efficiently than non-heme iron from plants, especially in people who need it most. That's biology, not ideology. We also find bonus nutrients that many people forget: creatine, carnitine, taurine, and carnosine concentrated in animal foods that support muscle performance, brain energetics, bile acid conjugation, and antioxidant defense. Yes, we can synthesize some of these, but dietary intake can be meaningful. One reason some vegetarians feel a noticeable boost if they supplement creatine, for example. In practice, My carnivore and low-carb patients often report steadier energy, fewer cravings, and easier body recomposition when those nutrients flow in naturally from their plates. Quick aside, if this kind of mechanism-rich breakdown helps, tap like, share with a friend who's nutrition curious, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps this message reach more people who need it. The thing you may say, but doc, what about fiber? Fiber can be useful for some, especially in mixed diets, but it's not an essential nutrient. Humans can have normal bowel function on low fiber patterns if electrolytes, hydration, and fat to protein balance are right. Our smaller colon hints that we're not designed to depend on massive fermentation like herbivores do. If plants help your digestion, great. You're not broken. You're more like me. You simply listened to your body and it told you it prefers an animal-based diet. What about saturated fat and heart disease, you may ask? As a clinician, this is how I handle this question. In practice, I track personal risk markers like a ApoB to A ratio, triglycerides to HDL ratio, insulin resistance via a fasting insulin, blood pressure, and of course, clinical endpoints, not just a single macronutrient. On animal forage diets that are low in refined carbs, I often see triglycerides drop, HDL rise, and metabolic health improve. Work with your clinician. Personalize it. Dogma doesn't lower your ApoB. Data does. But plants have benefits, you argue. Absolutely. Many people thrive on plant-forward patterns, especially when they're whole food, high protein, and low in refined starch and sugar. Much of the early plant-based miracles comes from removing ultra-processed foods and stabilizing insulin, not from magical kale dust. My message is permission-based. Choose the pattern that heals you. If that's animal-based, wonderful. If it's plant-based with smart supplementation and protein strategy, I'll cheer you on. My patients live in both lanes. We share the same enemy, processed junk and metabolic dysfunction. What about height, bone health, and physical health overall? When populations shifted from broadly foraged diets, including substantial animal foods, to early agriculture, many saw declines in stature and overall health indicators. It wasn't universal, and context matters, but it's a reminder. Narrowing the diet and leaning heavily on cereal staples often comes with trade-offs. Modern agriculture has improved a lot, but the anthropological signal is still instructive. So, are we carnivores or plant eaters? The honest answer is that we're adaptable omnivores with carnivore-leaning features. Our acid, gut proportions, brain energetics, and evolutionary toolkit point to a long history of animal-heavy eating, supercharged by cooking, with plants as context, dependent allies, fallbacks in some seasons and environments, staples in others. That doesn't mean everyone should be pure carnivore. It means an animal-based foundation is biologically plausible as a default setting for many humans, and for a lot of my patients. It's the shortest path back to metabolic health. So if you're curious, here's a practical way to experiment safely. For 30 days, make ruminant meat, eggs, and seafood your anchors. Add salt to taste. Hydrate intelligently, and adjust the fat to protein ratio until hunger and energy stabilize. Track how you feel. Digestion, sleep, skin, cravings, and watch the numbers. Fasting glucose or CGM patterns, fasting insulin, triglyceride to HDL ratios, and if possible, ApoB to A ratio. If you're on diabetes or blood pressure meds, do this with your clinician because you might need dose reductions quickly. At the end, compare the results to your baseline, body, brain, and labs. The goal isn't to belong to a tribe, it's to reclaim your health. My conclusion as a physician and a human who's done the N of 1 experiment: we were born with hardware that runs beautifully on animal-based nutrition. Some will add plants by preference or tolerance, and that's fine. But dismissing animal foods because of outdated fear or one-size-fits-all dogma doesn't serve patients, and it definitely does not serve you. Let's keep the conversation respectful, the mechanisms front and center, and the outcomes personal. You have permission to experiment. If you land where I did, excellent. If you land somewhere else that heals you, I'll still be cheering. Our shared mission is metabolic health. I really hope this was helpful. And if this resonated, subscribe for more root cause education. Drop your questions below and tell me your 30-day plan. I'll see you in the next one.